What's up, gamers? And you want to know the best build for Lighter. Either you're coming before he's actually out and you plan on getting everything ready for him now, or if he's already out in the game and you just need to find a solution and make him the best possible. Today's video is going to help you out tremendously. So gamers, let's go ahead and talk about our sexy, happy trailish, cool guy, main protagonist, husbando MC right now, Mr. Lighter. And let's be honest, guys, I think he might just be the hottest husbando we've gotten in a HUSBANDO game ever. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comment section down below, but I think he is. Anyways, guys, let's go ahead and start off with a kit breakdown first, or kind of how he works. So he is a breaker fire type unit, guys, so his main gist is going to be breaking the enemy shields. So you would think. Now, he does break the enemy shield, but I think he also plays pretty good as a DPS as well. Like, while I think his breaking is okay, right? Like, this is going to be going completely off of what we saw in the live stream. Like, the breaking he was doing to these tier 1 enemies was really not that much, even when he was using an intense base attack, which is the main way you're dazing the enemies, right? Because what his basic attack does is after 5 hits, whenever you have his meter up, his morale meter up, which generates automatically, you'll be doing like a flurry of punches, like aura, aura, aura. He's basically Jotaro incarnate, okay? So he is going to be doing an aura attack, and while you're doing this attack, it's going to be increasing the amount of impact that he has, and it's also going to be just breaking the enemy's toughness as fast as it possibly can, right? And at the end, you do one big attack, which is going to be eating away at that daze meter even more, and that's like the main gist of his kit, right? But if you notice here, he's also doing some pretty decent damage on top of that. So that's why I do think he plays more of like a sub DPS breaker role, rather than say someone like a Lycon, right? Where Lycon just breaks the enemy shield super fast, or even someone like a Chingy that's breaking this enemy shield super fast and giving you increased damage on that daze as well. So for me, I think he's kind of more so like a direct upgrade to Collator or something like that, but that's not to say that he doesn't do other good things, because he's also going to be, first of all, decreasing the enemy's resistance to fire and ice type damage, meaning he can be used on teams with like Soldier 11 and also teams with L and Joe as well. Not only that, guys, he's also going to be increasing the damage for ice and fire type allies on your team if you're running on the same team with someone from Sons of Collidon or just an attacker in general. I love it when we have additional abilities that play with a whole separate subclass of character, right? Like, I hate it when we have like these things like, oh, well, you need fire type in this to work, and okay, I guess it would work for like a mono team for sure, but having it play off of a class, especially the attack class, means you're giving that main DPS a buff. He's acting as a sub DPS slash supporter slash breaker, and then you have another supporter on the team as well, which just makes him all around really good. And this is also going to be increasing his damage too, obviously. Now, there are some other things that he does, guys, that I cannot mention in today's video just because they haven't announced it yet, and maybe by the time this video comes out, it's there. If so, then I'm just going to theorize what else he does here. I think that he could possibly extend the amount of time that an enemy is stunned by, which could be really good for your main DPS overall. Having that extended timer, meaning you can have them out in the field for longer, which means you do more overall damage with them while the enemy is stunned. So very, very good in my opinion there. But that's really all I have to give you as far as like a kit breakdown of how he actually works. Let's go ahead now and talk about his best in slot weapons, W engines, whatever you want to call it, because the free-to-play options here are okay. He does have some free-to-play options, but let's just go over it, right? Obviously, his best in slot option going to be his signature W engine, right, guys? I would think the main stat here is probably something like impact, and then I would assume that something with the passive it does also has something to do with impact as well, because maybe the majority of the things in his kit are derived from impact. So this is obviously going to be a really big plus side. I also would assume that it did something maybe with increasing another stat for the rest of your team as well. So maybe you're getting damage bonus, maybe you're getting res, and then maybe you're getting something else that doesn't have to do with a damage bonus or res. I hope you can take an inference there. But that's going to be his best in slot W engine, though I don't think you necessarily need to run him on that. There are some other A rank options you can use. Like his best in slot A rank W engine is going to be the 6 shooter. You have to buy the BP to get this, but 6 shooter is going to be really, really good because first of all, it gives you impact for the main stat, and then also whenever you get this thing leveled up or ascended more, you're also going to be getting some daze from this as well. Now, daze doesn't affect impact, which doesn't really affect the buff that he's giving to the team, but the big thing with daze is it'll allow you to actually stun the enemy quicker, and I think that's one of the main problems that he has is stunning the enemy quickly. So having some extra days here is really nice to have because you are able to go in and stun that enemy quicker to get your DPS out in the field quicker as well. So overall, I do think this is his best A rank W engine because, I mean, if we look outside of that, the only other A rank W engines he has to really work with are free-to-play options, which is the Fossil W engine, because this is going to be giving you a base stat increase to your impact, and then on top of that, if you're over 75% HP, it's going to be giving you a 32% increase to your impact if you have this thing max refined. So this is going to be super good for the buff buffs he's able to provide from his core passive and additional abilities and stuff like that. So this is also a very good option to use. Of course, if you drop below 75% HP, then you're only getting 16% of this. So you want to make sure he's topped up on HP at all times and not really getting hit that much. So you do need to be a pretty clutch and good player to not drop below that 75% HP threshold. And that's really going to do it for the A rank W engines you can use. I want to talk about teams now, because I do think he's in a unique situation where he can be thrown on just about any team that you want to run him on. But you can also run him as like maybe like a main DPS and maybe some situations as well. So let's go ahead and talk about that now. First, guys, what I want to mention, I don't necessarily recommend using him as a main DPS all the time. I only recommend using him as a main DPS if you don't have any other fire characters in your account, right? Like most of the teams you want to run him on are going to be teams consisting of fire DPS or an ice DPS. That leads me into our first team now, which is going to be a team with Bernice, a lighter, and then also Soldier 76. This will allow him to take full usability of this passive, buffing Soldier 76 up even more, and just letting her do buku's amounts more damage as well. You could swap out Soldier 76 for an Ellen here, and then swap out your Bernice for like a Shokaku or something like that. That could also work to get the ice bonus for Ellen, and then obviously he's buffing up ice too, so that could also help her out. You can replace Shokaku, put Like on the team. That is also another viable option you can use. Hell, you could even run a full Sons of Caledon team with Bernice, Lighter, and then also Lucy as well. That is another viable team that you can run, because they're all being able to take use of the fire damage bonus or ice damage bonus that you're able to provide, or the ice and fire res you're putting on the enemy. Now, one final team I want to mention. I told you, you could maybe use them as a main DPS, and the reason I say this is because if you don't have Soldier 76 in your account or Bernice, you really don't have like a fire DPS, right? And this is where I think he comes in to play that role of like a fire DPS if you absolutely needed one, right? Because I think with his ability to buff up his own damage he does, give a resistance down on the enemy as well, I think he can fit the role of playing a main DPS or a hyper carry lighter team to his advantage, right? And this is what I would be using him as, because I don't have a main DPS for fire. So in this situation, I would be using it on a team with Lighter, Lucy, and Nicole, because first of all, Nicole gives defense shred. Lucy is going to be giving an attack buff, which will help him out too. And then he is, first of all, going to be breaking the enemy down, like breaking the daze meter, which does a good amount of damage. And then he's able to provide some of his own damage as well. So these are the teams that I recommend today that you could possibly use them on. I think in the future have a lot more use cases, especially when we get more fire DPS added into the game and when we get more ice DPS added into the game. I think he is kind of preparing for the future, as did Bernice and as did Yanagi. I think all of these characters are setting up future characters to come out, which I really do like. They're not self-contained in this one patch. It shows me that these characters will get better in the future and maybe not fall off as hard as we've seen in some other gacha games like Honkai Star Rail or Genshin Impact for that matter, right? So I really do think having this in place does kind of add some extra future-proof ability to his kit. But now probably the moment you've been waiting for, right? How to actually build him, right? What are his best disk drive sets, best disk drive stats, everything like that? What number are you wanting to hit with his impact to make sure he's getting maximum of his buff? But before we talk about that, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button now for some more Zenless Zone Zero and Honkai Star Rail content. I would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button now, so then we can actually talk about what his best stats are. Did you hit it yet? I'll show a sexy picture of Lighter on screen over here. That surely made you subscribe. Starting off with his best and realistically only 4-piece set you can run on him, Shockstar Disco. This is going to be increasing his impact. You want so much impact on him, but to really fully utilize him, you are going to be needing so much impact, it is insane. So make sure you are focusing on getting this set here. This is bar none the best set you can get, because at a 2-piece it's increasing impact, and then at a 4-piece it'll be giving you increased days when you're using his attacks, which means you're breaking the enemy down quicker, which, like I said before in the previous bit, that is the part that he has issue with. I know he's a breaker, but he can have issues with actually breaking the enemy, so having some increased days on him is always really nice to have. Would definitely recommend this set. I really don't recommend any other 4-piece set on him. But that really just leaves us with the 2-piece sets. What 2-piece sets can you run on him? Which ones are viable for him? I think a 2-piece set of Swing Jazz is really good for him. It's going to be increasing his energy regen, which means you can use the skill more often, which means you can get to that 5 burst a lot quicker. That's a really good thing you could run on him. Hell, you could run Inferno Metal, which increases his fire damage. If you wanted to use him as a main DPS, that's another really good set to run. And one, I'm going to throw this out here, guys. I think if you wanted to run him as a main DPS, you could really run a 2-piece Woodpecker Electro here, because it gives you increased crit rate, right? Because I think if he's a main DPS on your team, you can take so much use of this to increase his crit rate, and then you can maybe focus on more crit damage in his kit or something like that. and then use them more so as a main DPS on your fire team if you wanted to use that. So that is another 2-piece that you can run. Really, it doesn't matter too much on what you're running here. I think the best overall damage-wise, if you're running with a sub DPS, would probably be Inferno Metal. I do think the 2-piece Swing Jash can come in clutch in some situations, but those are the 3 best 2-piece sets that I recommend for him. Now let's go ahead and talk about what his best main and sub stats are, starting off with the 4-piece first, which is crit rate and crit damage. Just like I mentioned before, guys, there's nothing really else you can run here. Like, there's no impact you can get here or anything like that, so focus on getting as much damage out as possible while he's on the field. I think that's going to be the best case scenario, and that's why I recommended Woodpecker Electro for a 2-piece set, because this will allow you to actually get some crits off and do some decent amount of damage with him. Now on the 5-piece is going to be fire damage or attack percentage, and then finally on the 6-piece is going to be impact. This is not negotiable. Impact. You need impact here. He needs a lot of impact to make sure you're maximizing the buff he's able to do, okay? So focus on impact here. That is going to be by far the best thing that you can get on him. Now let's talk about some of the sub and recommended stats. On the sub stats, guys, all I recommend is crit rate, crit damage, pin ratio, and then probably anomaly proficiency as well if you can get it, so he helps with some fire anomaly. If you're running him on like an anomaly based team, that could help you in that situation, but realistically, crit rate, crit damage, pin ratio is really the only things you want to focus on here. All of these will give you some increased damage. He is like a sub DPS like I mentioned, so you can take use of this and do some pretty nasty damage with him. The only recommended stat that I have, guys, is impact. You want to make sure you're getting as much impact as humanly possible on him. That's why I recommend for the 6-piece you have an impact main stat, because to get the max buffs from his kit, guys, you're going to be needing around 270 impact, okay, guys? So you want to make sure you're trying to get as close to that number as humanly possible. You don't necessarily have to hit it, but that is going to be giving you the max full send buffs that you would be getting from maybe one part of his kit, right? So that's really all that I have to say about Lighter today. I do think that Lighter is kind of set up for the future, as it was Yanagi and as was Bernice as well. All of these kind of play a role that kind of work in the game right now, but I think will work better in the game as we get more characters like a fire main anomaly DPS, as we get more fire DPS in general, right? As we get more ice DPS in general, right? As we get more anomaly characters, I think that he really does set that up, and I think he's a very versatile unit that you can use both on an anomaly-based team and a crit-based team as well. I think he can work in both of those situations. So that's really all I have to say about Lighter today. Are you pulling for the hot, sexy husbando? Let me know in the comment section down below it. Did you already get him? You're watching this video after you got him? Let me know how that went too. Anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed. Please hit that subscribe button and maybe the like button too if you made it this far. Anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Later, bye. Oh my god, Lighter's so freaking hot, bro. I might have to buy a body pillow with him.